There was a discussion.
Mandela,
it was about Mandela,
yes.
yeah.
And you made the point that Mandela received over 200 honorary...
over 250 honorary doctorates and over 400 different honorific titles.
Wow.
Across
he never used any of them.
He never called himself Dr. Mandela.
Why are we here?
Why we are here is because it's a cultural issue. In a culture where people are respected and rewarded more for their titles, positions, and names than their actual performance, production, and contribution, people will work towards titles, positions, and names rather than performance, contribution, and actual, work. Yeah. So it's a cultural issue. Okay, the Kwame Nkrumah aspect, unfortunately, is true. He didn't finish his PhD. He got something and then he called himself Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. But there's a point there. I do believe there's a place for honorific titles.
Yeah.
In my view, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was fit to hold that in honor.
Honoris causa.
Yes, was fit. And there are a number, we don't have time out, I told you a number of stories about people who had honorific titles. In fact, there was one of them who he got it and said, oh, now he has to work for it. So it creates a certain, dynamic.
Yeah.
But then you have a situation where we've built this culture at the highest level. And I know people in academia who basically have gone through degree mills just to acquire these, titles. And they actually got promoted through it. And
really?
Yeah. Somebody got some funny doctorate, and then through that they've gotten a professorship and they are moving on. So, bottom line, when you see somebody called Dr. Who and ask them, what have you done?
What do you have to show?
What contribution have you made? Today there's a whole movement, especially in the US, that is working against people acquiring higher degrees. Because they are saying the people who are changing the world, many of them are actually school dropouts. Part of it is because of these things. You have people with big names and titles, and they don't have anything to show for it. So what we've created is a culture which rewards these names, and people don't ask actual performance. So that's why we are where we are. And for that reason, you see, people think, oh, why should GTech be doing these things? Unfortunately, for you, it's a personal thing, but it poisons the whole society. In fact, I've come to a point where when I hear doctor, immediately I say something. The reverend ministers and all those people. So it's just spoiled that thing. Look, with respect to my fellow Nigerians, they've experienced that situation where people have all these titles, so nothing means anything. There was a time when I was growing up. When you hear somebody's a doctor of anything, you look at the person twice.
It was a big deal.
It was a big deal because you know they earned it. Today, no. No. And in fact, a lot of my friends who have doctorates, they rather write A, B, C, and they write PhD. Okay, so you have a situation where the culture is actually making nonsense of actually seeking those things. And my last point, people are they are bypassing the University of Ghana and the proper process. There are about 10 institutions in Ghana properly licensed who are just selling degrees. And they are going there and buying them. You go, you pay the fees, astronomical fees, you sit at home, get somebody to write your thing for you. After 2 years, you go for the graduation, they put a gun on you, And
that writing 50-page PhD thesis, I'm like, really? 50 pages?
That culture is deleterious. What I mean is, it eats at us over time. So what GTech is doing, whatever you say about it,
on what GTech is doing, because you're a lawyer, Professor Kwekwasari makes the point that GTech may be breaching the Constitution in that because they are exercising some sort of discretionary power. He says there should be a regulation in place to let us know how far they can go, because some, as you said, and just to quote his point, he says, when the law says the commission shall regulate, it is a grant of regulatory authority. But under Article 296 of the Constitution, commissions and agencies cannot act arbitrarily or in an ad hoc manner. A commission with regulatory authority is at a minimum expected to A, publish regulations, directives or guidelines which will be gazetted, clearly define what uses are permitted and what count as misuse, and provide processes for registration, approval, or enforcement. He says, as we speak, this has not been done.
You see,
so the power GTech is exercised, and he makes the point that when you are giving authority, let me get that, a grant of power is not equal to license to act without rules.
Professor Azari is making an argument. And that argument has merit. It does not mean it's a winning argument. I can make the same argument. In fact, there's a lot of argument about bail. All right? Yoko gives bail.
Yeah.
The police give bail. Okay? In my view, I'm very assured in my mind that it's unconstitutional.
Okay.
Why? Because the whole essence of bail is to restrict or limit the power of the arresting authority. So if you are the one that can give bail, wrong. All right? And if you look at it, the same rule, Article 296. So if Yoko and the bosses there, who are not judges, are giving bail and exercising that,
then there should be regulations to guide that.
Do that.
Yeah.
And one of these days, we'll go to the Supreme Court and have that done now. So it's an argument. But is it stopping Yoko from keeping Shatawale? No. So those arguments are there. In every society, you balance these things, and when the time is ripe, you put these things in place. So I'm not saying he's wrong. And maybe GTEC should do that. But in the interest of probity and integrity, GTEC is right to do what it is doing now. Somebody has to do it. In this country, Professor Ade, my own worthy professor, who in every sense of the word is a proper person to call himself a professor, and I don't want to go through the history of whatever it is, he was sued. Because essentially, somebody said he's using the term professor when he hasn't merited it. What does it mean to merit it? The man is producing results, which some other professors are not producing.
Very well.
Okay, but he was sued. Fine, sue him. But it turned out that he was, vindicated. So my point is, you have a situation where we've come to a tipping point.
Okay.
And the tipping point, so I agree with people like Professor Asari that, maybe we should organize it better.
Okay.
But we can't say until that is done, we should leave these brigands to go around talking and calling themselves professor. Gentleman said, no, let me do it. This gentleman sitting by me is a professor. Very young man. Do you know what he has gone through to become
a professor? And
he is, in every sense of the word, properly so-called. Now, if you didn't know him well, all right, and because of all that is going on, he comes and says, my name is Professor Bobkin. You look at him and say, how old are you and where did you come? Okay, but he's paid the price. Yeah. And I know a couple of young professors like that. And I'm like, what does it say to these people? And I'm telling you, our youth today are moving away from them because they don't see the point in paying the price, okay, to gain that thing fair and square because of all that is going on. So
very well. And the point about having regulations for the exercise of every discretionary power is what Dateba referred to as a meltdown. It may lead to a meltdown of governance. Because it's not just possible.
It may.
It may, of course.
Again, you see, you cited something which is big for lawyers. Dateba is revered.
Sure.
And he was right in that context.
Yes.
But the context is important. When we say may, given that context, yes, we understand it.
Sure.
But indeed, that provision is extremely important for the regulation of powers within
discretionary power. That's true.
Within any society.
That's true.
So, for that context, yes. But in the broader context, it takes away from the essence of 296. And 296, anybody who is not a judge, including the president, exercising a discretion, must give us clear rules.
Remember that argument was made when